Hello, everybody. Welcome to GM Sports Report, your weekly podcast on all things sports where every play counts. I'm Grant, and I'm here with my co-host Mason as we get ready to cover the latest news, headlines, and upcoming events going on in the sports world. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see all things GM Sports Report. Mason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Grant. How are you?
I'm doing good. Obviously, as you can tell by the poster behind me, something in the news happened that I'm not too happy about. But we're gonna get into that. So I'll let you go ahead and start out with your hot take of the week.
Yeah, so my hot take is that Venezuela could shock the world tonight. They're a sneaky team. I really think that they've been overlooked this entire series or this entire tournament, and they took out some of the. We'll get into it a little more later, but they took out some of the biggest names in this tournament, and I wouldn't be too surprised if they come out swinging tonight. So that's my hot take.
All right, I like that. Um, my hot take, I'm going to go more into the emotional side of this trade that just happened this morning. We're going to get into the more logistic side later. But man, I just think the Dolphins really messed up trading Jaylen Waddle. I think that's one they're going to regret. I understand that you're a rebuilding team, and that this rebuild's probably going to take a few years. But I feel like guys like Waddle and Achane, like those are guys that you build around rather than send off when you're blowing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I get the whole how many picks we have now sort of situation, but I just feel like there's not a wide receiver that's going to be better than Waddle that is in your range for this draft. So I don't think they're going to upgrade him or replace him anytime soon. And he was a fan favorite. I don't know. It's just a weird situation. I don't think that it's a trade that makes sense for the Dolphins side. I wonder if Jaylen Waddle wanted to be traded. I feel like that's what has to be the case because I feel like it just does not make sense to trade Jaylen Waddle. So yeah, that is my hot take.
Is anyone on that poster still on the team anymore?
Everyone on that poster is now gone, so I'm gonna have to find something to put up there now. I'm gonna have to have a poster of Malik Willis, Tutu Atwell, and Jalen
There you go.
Tolbert up there. Oh
Yeah.
goodness. All right, let's go ahead and slide over to our underdogs of the week.
All right. So my underdogs are the relievers against Dominican Republic. Shout out to David Bednar, Garrett Whitlock, and Mason Miller. They were absolutely phenomenal. Bednar got into a little bit of a situation, and he was able to get himself out of it. Whitlock was just absolutely amazing. I think it was an eighth, and then Mason Miller was just dicing it up, and then until what happened is very controversial, but he was looking amazing. So yeah, huge shout out to them. The relief pitching has been looking shaky all tournament for USA, and it's been very good to see the pitching be one of the strong suits of one of the best teams, if not the best team in the tournament. So that was great to see, and shout out to all of them.
Yeah, I like that. My underdog of the week, I'm going with Team Italy, who was eliminated last
Mm-hmm.
night. They had a fantastic run in this WBC, going 5-0 before losing last night's game, beating USA, really not just beating them but
Yeah.
embarrassing them. And Vinny Pasquantino with a fantastic WBC. Aaron Nola pitched amazing for them. They had other guys playing really well for them. So I just wanted to shout out their run. I think it was a fun one to watch, and I think that that's something Italy fans can be proud of. I know they didn't make it to the championship game, but as far as they made it, they've never made it that far before in the history of the WBC. So pretty cool story to see as it went on throughout the tournament. So shout out to Team Italy.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and we're going to stick with the WBC conversations. We're going to go ahead and talk about the semifinal game between the USA and the Dominican Republic. Mason, what are your thoughts on this game? I know there's a lot of controversies around it, but what are you thinking about it?
Yeah, so obviously the controversy we're talking about is uh, what's the guy's name? Perdomo.
Yeah, Geraldo Perdomo.
Perdomo was up. It was an 8 pitch at bat, and I think one was on, and he would have been walked to be the second on while they were down one, bottom of the ninth with 2 outs. And the ump, as he was doing all night, called a horrible strike three call to end the game and for USA to advance to the finals. So I think that's probably going to be the talk of, the semifinals, and if not, throughout till the beginning of the season, the MLB season. So it's a tough pill to swallow for Dominican Republic fans. USA fans, they're kind of like, okay, well, it happened. Sucks to see that it ended like that. Such an amazing game, but we gotta go against Venezuela now, who beat a team who, like you mentioned, beat us pretty well. So I thought it was an amazing game. It was really like I kind of mentioned earlier, a pitchers duel. Whoever had the best stuff, I think, was going to end up winning, and that's what happened. So I know guys like Juan Soto said, "Well, we saw who the better team was tonight," and which I thought
Yeah,
was
that
kind
was
of
a weird
funny
comment.
because yeah, Canada did the same thing after USA beat them in the Olympics. So it was a phenomenal game. I'm excited. I'm happy I was able to watch that. Just kind of wish it ended a little better. It was a little anticlimactic. So yeah, I'm really excited to see kind of what's next for USA in this finals against Venezuela.
Yeah. As far as the last play of the game, the last strike that was called, I think that it's a terrible call. Obviously, it was a ball, should have been ball
Right.
four. But for the last however many years of baseball, there's been bad calls throughout the sport. I feel like the new ABS system that's being implemented into the MLB is what's making this such a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, if they just had the ABS, it could have been challenged. Ball four, we go from there. But it's not in the WBC, and like you said, there was multiple calls at the bottom of the zone that were called strikes. So as a hitter, you should know, hey, anything low in the zone with two strikes, I gotta foul off, I gotta tip, I gotta, stay alive. It was a pitch that's kind of too close to take, in my opinion, but it definitely was a ball, should have been called a ball. And I think I'm more upset at the fact that we missed out on a teammate matchup between Mason Miller and Fernando Tatis with a game on the
Tatis.
line,
Yeah.
championship on the line. I feel like that would have been such a fun matchup, kind of like a Shohei versus Trout matchup that we saw in the last WBC. So I think if I'm mad about anything, that's what it is. Obviously, I'm not complaining. I'm cheering for USA, so I'm happy that they moved on. Um, and yeah, that shout out to Paul Skeens coming in and just absolutely
Absolutely.
slamming the door shut. I wish that the other ace on the team, Tariq Skubal, would take notes and follow the footsteps of Paul Skeens, but we know that's not happening. But yeah, shout out to Paul Skeens, shout out to the whole pitching staff, the bullpen, Whitlock, Bednar, like you were talking about earlier, and then obviously Mason Miller, who has put up some crazy statistic about like hitters going 0 for 50 or something like that since September or something crazy, just something crazy like
Mm-hmm.
that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but he's been the best closer in baseball, no doubt about that. And this Venezuela and USA game, I'm really excited to see how this plays out. And we'll go ahead and transition over to that. Mason, what are your thoughts on this game going into it?
I think it's gonna be, from watching last night, Venezuela was doing really well at drawing walks and getting on bases and things like that. So we have, what's his name, McLean.
Yeah,
McLean's
the
pitching.
Mets pitcher.
So
Yep.
yeah, so he was obviously roughed up a bit going against Italy. We have to have his best game tonight if we want to have a chance of winning this game, because sure, our bullpen can do well, but if we get into a hole like we did against Italy with him pitching, it could be over really fast. And despite that, all that, our offense has been absolutely just shut down. It seems like we had two big hits, and those were the home run, two solo shots on the home runs. We got a couple guys on base, and our biggest thing, I think, throughout this tournament is having guys left on base and not being able to drive guys in. We've left so many points on the board, and it just or so many runs on the board, and it's been very frustrating to see, just because I see it all the time with the Yankees. So I'd really like to see that kind of get cleaned up a bit, and then pitching, relief, that's got to be on point as well. I don't know too much about their like pitching staff and kind of what they have over there, but I know that their hitters are very experienced and know what they're doing. So that's something I'm really looking out for.
Yeah, this Venezuela team offensively is very, very talented. A lot of MLB guys on their
Hmm.
team, led by Acuna, obviously. Luis Ariz has had a lot of big hits. Very talented team. Can't underlook them whatsoever. I mean, this is a team that beat Italy, and Italy beat you pretty badly, so you got to take them very seriously here. Nolan McLean does worry me a little bit pitching tonight. I'm not going to lie, after how he got touched up in that first start he had, but He's a good pitcher. I'm expected him to bounce back. We'll see what happens. Like you said, the runners on base, you can't keep getting away with that. At some point, that's going to come back to bite you. So they really got to execute when runners get on base. I think they need to keep the hot hands in the lineup. I think Gunnar needs to stay in that lineup. I think Roman Anthony needs to stay in that lineup. I think PCA needs to stay in the lineup unless there's a left-handed pitcher pitch, and then you can throw Byron Buxton back into the starting lineup. But I think you can't take those guys out of the lineup right now. They've been doing too much for this team right now. The whole situation that they've been doing at the end of the game has made no sense to me when they'll take Roman Anthony out of the game and move Buxton to center field and Pete to left field. If you're doing that for a defensive adjustment, why would you not take Aaron Judge, who's clearly the weakest defender out of that outfield out of the game when he's not, because it's not like he's going to have another at bat. In both those games, Aaron Judge wasn't getting another at bat. So if you were truly going into a defensive situation, that should have been the move to make. But I don't know. We know Mark DeRosa is going to make a lot of questionable calls managing this team. So I really hope he doesn't make any bad decisions tonight. Because this is a team that you can't play around with. This is a real team with real MLB guys on their roster that want to win it. Venezuela is going to have a ton of fans there. I think it's going to be almost an away game for USA. The Venezuela was really showing out last night. So it's going to be a very fun game, and I'm excited to see what happens. But I think USA should be able to win this game.
I agree. And one thing that I can't believe we haven't mentioned the entire time talking about this, and just WBC in general, is how amazing Bobby Witt has been. We kind of touched up on Gunnar Henderson and, Paul Skeens. But when you mentioned Paul Skeens, it's like Paul Skeens has never had a team like this. And you can see how good he felt when he had a good defense behind him. You see Aaron Judge make that throw against Tatis out to the third baseman, and then Bobby Witt making some of those diving amazing plays that he's been doing all tournament. It's been so fun to watch, and I'm sure it's felt so good for Paul Skeens as well to have a defense and have a team be able to back him up.
Yeah, I think that Bobby Witt has definitely been probably the best player on this roster throughout this tournament. So I like that call out. We'll see what happens tonight with this game, and we'll be talking about it next week. Also, along with opening day, that is literally 9 days away, so that's going to be fun. We'll go ahead now and slide over to the NBA, and we'll do our player and team of the week. So, Mason, who is your player of the week?
So I'm picking the other guy. I know you're going to pick one guy, but I'm going to go with Luka Doncic. 37.3 points per game, 10.7 rebounds per game, 11 assists per game. He's been phenomenal, finally being back to kind of his old ways. I think he had a great game winner against Denver, which was amazing. So, huge shout out to Luka Doncic.
Yeah, him and the Lakers have been red hot. For my player of the week, I'm obviously going with Bam Adebayo, who averaged 41 points, totally not a slated number. That was put up by one single night. 41 points, eight rebounds, 2 steals this last week. But yeah, obviously, if you score 83 points, I'm going to pick you as my player of the week. I know we've talked about it, so I'm not going to go into the whole rant. But if it was so easy, then people would be scoring 83 every night. But there's only a few people that have done it in NBA history. So I'm just going to lay that one to bed. Bam Adebayo is my player of the week. All right. Now we'll go ahead and go to our team of the week.
Okay, so my team of the week is going to be Atlanta. I think they're on a 10-game win streak or 12-game win streak or something right now, and it's been insane, to see what they've been able to do in this later half of the season. And shout out to Atlanta. I'm excited to see what they can do with a full season of this next season.
Yeah, it's just so crazy, the East this year. I mean, we've seen the Hornets go through a crazy hot streak. We've seen the Hawks go through a crazy hot streak. The Magic and the Heat have been going on a hot streak lately. It's just crazy to see all these storylines that have come out of the East. It feels like a new month comes in, and then it's like there's a new team that's in the East that's like into the mix now.
Yeah, I know.
So it's been so crazy to see. But that's a great pick for my team of the week. I'm going with the 9-1 Lakers in their last 10. Now in that 3rd seed, like we were talking about last week, it's a very tight race right now for the West for the 2 through 4 seed, I believe it is. That's a really tight race right now. So any team that's going on these big streaks is going to have a chance to be in play here for one of those seeds in the Western Conference. And the Lakers, like you said, led by Luka Doncic, have looked amazing and 9-1 in their last 10. So that's my team of the week. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and slide over to the NFL, and we're going to obviously start with the headline and trade that broke this morning. Jaylen Waddle has been traded to the Denver Broncos. Mason, what are your thoughts on this trade?
Dolphins standpoint, I think it really hurts them as far as what they have now. The picks, I think, is going to be absolutely amazing. 11 total draft picks for this upcoming draft in April. I think that's phenomenal, especially with what they have been going through. You have guys that you knew were going to go, like Tyreek Hill and Tua. So to see him go, it was definitely a shock because you kind of figured that it'd be Achane and Waddle to kind of go around. But seeing him go, I think, is definitely a shock to all Miami and, if not NFL fans. Going to Denver, I think it's going to be a great fit for him and Denver Broncos in general. They could use a guy exactly like Waddle. If I know I kept saying it at the end of last season for the NFL season, but if Bo Nix was healthy, they would have absolutely made it to the Super Bowl. If not win, I don't know. That would have been a much closer game, I feel like. But yeah, it's going to be a great addition for Bo Nix and the Broncos. But for the Dolphins, we will see how those picks turn out.
Yeah, first things first, I'll start on the Broncos side. That is just such a great trade for the Broncos to make, go out and get a guy like Waddle. Just a very talented weapon for Bo Nix to have. So yeah, that's going to be very fun to see how that plays out. And it's a trade that I think the Broncos would and should make 10 out of 10 times. And as far as the Dolphins end of things, yeah, they're rebuilding, but I just don't get trading a guy like Waddle, who's a fan favorite, still young to where if you rebuild for a few years, by the time you're expected to be good again, he could still contribute years of quality football. So I just don't get moving on from him. I really hope that it comes out that this was like, Waddle wanting to get out and they were just respecting that and trading him. Because if that isn't the case, now I'm starting to worry about, Achane potentially being traded. I really hope not. I think that he's one that should just never be traded because of how talented he is. But I don't know. I wasn't expecting Jaylen Waddle to be traded. And yes, we do have 11 picks now. Yes, we have 7 picks in the top 100. But I don't know. I'm respecting the rebuild. I was fine with Tua, leaving. I was fine with Hill. I was fine with Phillips. I was fine with Minka. All those ones made sense. This Waddle one just is not making any sense for me. So we'll just have to see what happens. I hope they know what they're doing, but I think that this rebuild is definitely going to take a long time now. And not to mention, it just doesn't make sense to bring in a guy like Malik Willis and just immediately set him up for failure. But yeah. It happened, and we'll see what happens from here. All right. Yep. Next segment we're going to get into, since we didn't really get to talk about it last week, is just sort of our favorite moves that our teams have done. So obviously I'm a Dolphins fan, Mason's a Giants fan. We're going to go ahead and just talk about some of, our favorite moves. So Mason, I'll let you go ahead and start.
Yeah, my favorite move was one of the first moves made by the New York Giants, and that's attaining tight end Isaiah Likely from the Baltimore Ravens. He was a free agent, but Harbaugh really went in his bag to get all the guys that he knew were going to be in free agency. Another guy like Pat Ricard, I think that's going to be very fun to watch. Him and Cam Scatterboot in the backfield, really just on those 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 situations, goal line situations. I think that's going to be very entertaining. And then another guy like Darnell Mooney, who was pretty good for the Falcons. He's going to be a good Wan'Dale Robinson replacement. We saw how much money Wan'Dale was going to, what he got. And for us to get a guy pretty much very similar to Wan'Dale and Darnell Mooney, I think that's going to be a great addition for Jackson Dart because he kind of already knows the play style of that. And then Tremaine Edmonds, I think he's going to be a huge voice on the defensive side of the ball, a big linebacker, a guy who was really loved in Chicago and kind of everywhere that he was. I think he's going to be a perfect replacement for Bobby Okereke and that inside run stuffing, persona. I'm very excited to see what we have and kind of where our guys are going to lead the New York Giants to. I still don't have playoff expectations. I think we're going to maybe be like just out. I'm really looking for a 500 season at least. I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but again, I'm very excited we get Malik Neighbors back, Cam Scadaboo back, a year with Jackson Dart throughout. Yeah, I can't wait. I really hope we go defensive in the draft, and then I'll be very happy.
Yeah, you have a lot more to be excited about. Definitely a lot of good moves. For my favorite moves, I mean, this was before the Waddle trade happened. Now I'm not really excited about any of the moves we made. I was gonna say Malik Willis. Obviously, I was excited to see a new quarterback that has a chance to be a starter now. Can run around and just brings a different thing that we haven't seen from the quarterback position in the Dolphins organization in a long time. But not really as excited about it anymore. Tutu Atwell, I was excited about, and Jalen Tolbert. I liked both those signings. I thought those were great receivers to pair with Jalen Waddle, but now we know that they're not going to be paired with Jalen Waddle. And yeah, I'm not really excited about anything anymore. I guess what I should be excited about is the 11 picks that we have, because I sure hope they hit on some of those, or else it's going to be a long, long rebuild. But yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, that's going to pretty much wrap up this episode. So thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of GM Sports Report, where every play counts. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be able to see our weekly episodes on all things sports. For additional content, check the description to see links to our Instagram and TikTok account. This is Grant and Mason. Sign off for now. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, guys.